Hey, welcome to Automotive Tech Talk, our podcast, everything automotive. I'm John Gardner. I host a television show called Tech Garage on Motor Trend Mav and Revin TV. I also have the distinct honor to teach at Chipola College automotive technology, man, one of the best programs in the nation. Get to teach the brightest, the greatest, the automotive technicians of tomorrow and the future. And speaking of that, the brightest and some of the greatest. I'm sitting next to Caleb Ayers, man. Caleb Ayers is a certified master technician. Caleb Ayers went through a training program and he's out there on the front lines. Caleb, tell me about your career.
Well, it's pretty much it can be it can be challenging at times, but it's one of those if you enjoy doing it like I do, then it's almost sometimes you don't even notice that you're working. Um, the way I like to think about it's kind of like a puzzle. So taking cars apart and putting them back together and like figuring out what's wrong with them, being able to fix it and just taking pride in your work and fixing stuff. Fixing it right the first time and just being very very proud of the work that you do. But it can be a regular 9 to 5 type job, or for some people, if, the sky's the limit as far as the hours you can work and how much money. I mean, you can make as much money as you want to make when it comes to the automotive industry. Um,
Yeah, there's so much. We'll get into that. Let's start with the basics. I mean, you obviously are a Dodge guy. I mean, you get to work on Hellcats, Demons, Mopars, trucks, all that cool stuff. Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, everything. So that's pretty neat right here. And our podcast is actually sponsored by Dodge. So if you want to sponsor one, just drop it in the comments below. We'll get you in there and get you on the podcast. So yeah, that's pretty cool. But more or less, how did you get started? You went to a trade school, obviously. I mean, that's how it all started.
yeah, it is. I actually just out of high school started here at Chipola. Um, Went through the automotive program, and the same month I was graduating, I already had several job interviews lined up, and ended up going with an exotic BMW car dealer. And I worked there for 4 years. But like it, and then throughout that time, like multiple job offers, different. It's just like whenever you graduate from an actual like an automotive school and you have the credentials that they offer, it's really really easy to find a job.
Now, that's the crazy part. I mean, you said multiple job offers prior to even graduating. I mean, there's that top 10% that graduates from any automotive school, any automotive college, any automotive technical program, but you were one of them. You actually, ASEs is Automotive Service Excellence. It's an exam that kind of, like a doctor has an MCAT. We have our ASEs, we have our certifications. Doesn't mean you're a great tech, but it does mean that you know the knowledge and you're willing to put in the time and effort to go out there and make yourself one of the best technicians. You had all 8 ASEs before you even graduated.
Yes.
I mean, that's crazy. That took a lot of work, man. I mean, study, discipline.
Yes, and I think one of the big things for me, I enjoyed reading. Well, I don't enjoy reading, but I enjoyed reading about automotive, like just learning new things in general. And so whenever we'd get a new chapter, a new like pamphlet, something to take home and read, something I could go home and read, I would read over it and I'd study it. And whenever I'd come in, I would know stuff, and like I would be able to just pick up and move on to the next thing because I've already studied. And um, it's one of those, you get out of it what you put into it. And as far as the ASEs, like they weren't difficult to me at all, any of them, just because I read up on it. I tried really hard, and I was so well prepared by the time I went to take the test, that I didn't have any issues.
Yeah, you put in a lot of work, and so you graduated. You went right to a BMW dealership. I mean, you got to see some really high tech stuff. I'm gonna put you on the spot, man. You went to a BMW dealership, worked there for a long time, and became a master BMW guy as well. I mean, you kept your education going, but Tech Garage season seven's right around the corner, and I need some guests, man. I need someone to come on and teach us about the autonomous system. Will you join us?
I would be really thrilled to do that.
Awesome. We'll get you on the show there. We'll talk about that in a minute. Let's get to something about a technician. If you're out there and you're interested in the industry, you've been there, you've done it. So, what's the best way to become a technician? Obviously, we talked about that. These are some of our viewer questions. Please write in, let us know, drop it in the comments. We'll put it on the podcast. We'll answer all the questions we can answer. Go to a local school, go to a dealership, go somewhere, become a technician, apprentice, and they'll mentor you. What's the best place to work, a dealership or an aftermarket shop? Well, I mean, six half dozen the other. What's your preference?
My personal preference is just dealership because there it seems to be more structure as far as you have, um, there you as far as training as well, like manufacturer training and stuff, you get sent off to that. And I realize that some aftermarket shops and stuff, they would actually, or independent shops, they would have training they'd send people to. I know that when I was at BMW training, sometimes there'd be guys from independent shops that were primarily, German vehicles, and they would be sent to those trainings as well. So, but I mean, really, my preference, I prefer a dealership. I've never worked in a
Separate aftermarket shop.
yeah,
Yeah.
aftermarket shop, so it's one of those. It just my preference, and like I said, I've not
That's
worked in
cool.
one, so I can't really compare.
Yep. I mean, if you're working in an aftermarket shop, you're probably going to work on a wide array of things, maybe some older cars, some newer cars, definitely different makes, manufacturers. You work in a dealership, you find a lot of pattern failures. There's highs and lows to both of those. I mean, do what you love. That's what I say. I mean, you wanted to work on BMW, you love to work on BMW, bam, that's where you ended up. How much do technicians make? Well, that's a whole nother ball game, man. We'll talk about flat rate in a minute, but let's look at some of the stuff that goes on out there as a technician and kind of address these. We'll kind of follow a little bit of format here. Give me a kind of a life in a day of Caleb, man, Ayers, as a technician. You're going to go to work, man. You're driving your truck up into the parking lot. Don't skip any steps. I want to hear what happens. Do you go in there? What time do you get there? What do you get, repair orders? Do you bring them to your bay? I mean, it's a big secret what these guys are doing. You guys are like a consortium of doctors now. I mean, it's that high tech.
Well, I mean, normally I try to always get to work a little early. That way, if something, if your computer doesn't boot up or whatever, if you need to fix something, you can get it before actual customers start showing up. Makes it a lot easier if you can get stuff done without the pressure of trying to hurry. So I like to show up to work early. Get a coffee, turn on the computer. Just kind of get things going, set up my stuff, and then normally the way it works at the dealer where I'm at now is like we'll get dispatch tickets, and so we'll be able to pull the vehicles in, and a lot of times like early in the week it's a lot of diagnosis. Usually towards the end of the week we're trying to catch up and finish up vehicles that parts. Because a lot of times, like especially certain vehicles, parts may not be in stock. You have to order them, have to wait for it, and you can't just leave the vehicle in your bay. You have to get it out and pull something else in. Keep moving, keep making progress, make some money. But yeah, as far as that goes, it seems like you get most of your work done before lunch.
It
So
gets hot after lunch.
yeah, it gets really
Things
hot
start to
after
slow
lunch.
down. I hear you. Yeah, I did the same thing. I would go in there and try to get as much done as I could because after lunch you just ate. Things start to slow down, and you're managing. You're really hugely multitasking. I mean, when you get to a dealership, you're going to have tickets. You go up there. You said you pull tickets. That's the repair orders on the car. Bam, you go out there, you got to get these cars, you got to kind of find out what's going on. Some people you're going to have to call for parts, some people don't want it, some people want to fix it, some parts are not in. I mean, you have to get 5 or 6 jobs going, highly skilled, well trained, I mean, able to perform a wide variety of tasks. That's one of our things there. I mean, to make money. I mean, that's the bottom line, to make money. And that brings us to that flat rate kind of thing. I mean, flat rate, a lot of guys are out there on salary. That's great. But in our industry, you get paid for what you do. That's what flat rate means. And I believe, is it 6 minutes or 12 minutes, 6 minutes, a tenth of an hour?
It varies from
Okay.
dealer to dealer. I know a lot of times 6 minutes is a tenth. They'll
Okay.
just break it up into
Right.
10 minutes. But yeah, and it really, especially if you stay working and are really good at managing your time, you can make so much more money on flat rate versus being on hourly, because the way it works is you get paid for what you do. So say you have a job and it pays 8 hours. Well, if you've done several of them before and you're really quick, you can be done with it in 4 hours, and you still get paid for the 8 hours. Now, on the other hand, if it's not that great of a job, it can pay 4 hours and you end up working 8 hours on it. You're still going to get paid 4 hours, but a lot of times it's kind of hit and miss. But for the most part, it usually ends up working in your favor, because you don't always end up with tickets like that. You'll get several good tickets, several bad, but they usually equal out, and you can work 40 hours in a week and end up turning 60 or 65, but still not have to be there 60 or 65 hours to bring home that kind of paycheck.
So if a starter pays an hour and you do it in a half an hour, you still get that hour.
Yes.
Okay, great. But on the flip side of that, and I know the flip side of that, I was at a GM dealership in 1993. The new Camaros came out. When the new Camaros come out, there wasn't even a service manual for them yet. And we had a motor come in. It was an LT1. You guys know all that mess. And boy, it was knocking, duk, 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 real bad. And they said, hey, I'll tell you what, we're just going to ship in an engine from the factory. don't touch anything. You're not allowed to. We want to see what's going on with the motor. Just yank it, send it back to us, swap the motor out before you even sell the car. Brand new. Well, if you know anything about the new Camaros, the engine comes out the bottom. None of us were used to that. So no service manuals. About 2 days later, Caleb, I had the engine out. I had it all done, running great. They came and picked up the engine. I walked to the dispatch to flag my ticket, and bam, they gave me 7.2 hours. And I'm like, whoa, dude, 7.2 hours? That's crazy. I worked, what, 8, 16, 24 hours on this vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
They helped us out. They have some shop stuff that they help you out with. But on the other hand, eventually it's pattern failures. That's the good part about a dealership. You're working in the aftermarket, you're working on so many different things. Of course, there's pattern failures out there. But in a dealership, you get used to certain quirks with certain cars, BMW and now Dodge and Chrysler and Jeep. I mean, there's certain things that happen, some pattern failures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially like with BMW, it's a good instance. They have a recall, and one of the recalls requires the dashboard to be removed. And the first time I remember doing it, it took most of the day to actually complete the job. I probably had about 7 hours in the whole job. Um, and then towards a few months ago, we were still doing a few of them, but like I'd done so many of them that it wouldn't be abnormal for you to be able to be completely done with it in 2 hours, just because it's one of those, once you know what every bolt size is, you know what you need here and how to move this piece of plastic to get it to pop out correctly. And it's just once you develop a pattern, you can get so much quicker with this stuff and actually make a lot more money, even off warranty stuff that usually pays less than a customer pay job would.
That's a good point. Warranty pays a little less than customer pay. I mean, it makes sense. The customer pays an older car that perhaps has a lot more miles on it. Some more things are going to break, a little more dirty than a newer car. I mean, you're going to have to factor that in. But so you get the car into your bay, bam, it comes into the bay. You got to do some pretty high-tech diagnostics. Let's just say it comes in with a check engine light, hypothetically thinking. I mean, you got to go get a scan tool and do all this diagnostic stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of times, like, it can be as simple as just plugging it in. It'll be a fault code that, yeah, okay, I've seen this. Or, some of them are extremely, like, they'll be very specific. It'll just say, fuel cap loose. And you can go back there and sure enough, they left the fuel cap loose.
Right.
They just got gas. Check engine light come on, they come straight there. So it's, sometimes it's like that. Other times you may not even have, you'll have like a check engine light. You'll have a fault code for something, and you check it and everything checks out good, and you just you're kind of just puzzled, and you have to start backtracking and try to find out, okay, well, this is also connected to this, because you'll have things that are faults due to something else going bad. So it may throw a fault that has nothing to do with what's wrong, but because it may say that fuel mixture too lean, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not getting enough fuel. It just, we, like, a lot of times we have like an air leak. It's just getting too much air, stuff like that. So you have to, once you've done it enough, like, you can you won't spend, waste so much time chasing like these problems that aren't actually problems. So you got to be able to just, and the big thing is just, trust your instincts, know your training, especially, like you've done this before. It's nothing new to you a lot of times. So, just go with your gut, and a lot of times too, just, trusting your diagnosis, especially if you do the diagnosis correctly and go follow the steps. A lot of these new vehicles and the test plans that we have, like, it's very specific on, you need to check this, then check this. And, if you just skim over it thinking, oh, well, that's not going to affect it or whatever, and, go on to the end and see what it says to replace and then just replace it. Then it comes back, the same thing's happening. It's because, you didn't check, the thing it said to do way earlier. So.
Yep, I told you we were with a world-class technician. Absolutely, I love hearing that. I love visiting with you because that's the key. I mean, these flow charts, you get out there and you start diagnosing vehicles. We did a whole podcast on strategy-based diagnosis, and you have to go step by step by step on some of these complex issues. You skip one step, it leads you down a whole nother rabbit hole, man. It's tough. It's tough to fix them. I mean, and then you have to get paid for that, the diagnostic time. You can't just bring a car in and do that. So you diagnose it, bam, warranty. I go to the parts. I got to shop for parts, make sure you get the parts, or they bring them out to you. You have to go get them, and then you're going to just repair the car. Warranty, customer pay. You may have to go to a service writer.
Yeah, customer pay a lot of times, and depending on the price of the part, how old the vehicle is, stuff like this, because some people will have an older vehicle and you think, surely they're not going to pay this much money to have this thing fixed, but some people like their old cars, and, it's cheaper than buying a new one. So, but like, it's really hit and miss. Some people some people drop a lot of money on them. Other people, they'll replace the bulb themselves type thing. But with warranty, it is nice. A lot of times you just go in, you can get the part ordered, fix it, and get it back to the customer. It seems to go a lot quicker. Another aspect to it all is people with like the aftermarket warranty. You happen to, a lot of times that takes a little bit longer, like getting authorization. But like I said, it's one of those. Personally, I prefer a customer pay ticket. You can wait a little bit longer, but usually make a little more money just because, if the car has 200,000 miles on it, it is, it's a lot, everything's nastier on it. It's harder to work on, and it does pay a little bit more.
Right.
But
And you're always fair to these people. I mean, you're one of those technicians that was trained well.
yeah.
Thank you very much. But no, you know what it takes. I mean, people are intimidated by their vehicle. They're intimidated by what's going on out there. So, you really have to, and you speak and you articulate your words well. I mean, a technician today, it's a high tech, but you have to be high tech as well. I mean, there's a time you may have to go out there and explain it to the technician. I mean, it's changed. It's changed. This whole industry has changed. And speaking of the industry, I mean, there's so many different things. I know you're a technician, but we could go through a whole list here. I mean, apprentice, a lot of times as an automotive instructor, and Josh Ellis as well, which is a phenomenal automotive instructor, my partner here on the podcast. We'll send some guys out there just to work to get a feel for it. I mean, we did that with you, let them feel for it. Technician, master technician, I mean, that's all 8 ASEs. You get all 8 ASEs, that's what you have. You took it one step further. I mean, you have dealership training as well. That's hugely important.
Yeah, and one of the big things too, a lot of the actual dealer specific training, a lot of it is online. And nowadays, a lot of people have either a smartphone or computer at home, something like that. A lot of my classes that I would actually be going to training for, I had already taken all of the prerequisites as far as like I'd done all the training I could do possibly online through that to prepare myself for that. So when you get there, there's some people you can tell they're kind of clueless to like, oh, I didn't even know it worked like that, versus you've already watched the videos, you answered the question, and so that's one of the big things that was just being disciplined and taking time to actually do training, because in the long run it helps you out, because then you're not looking at this car trying to figure out why it's doing this, or why when this goes out this quits working. You're not chasing that because you've gone through the class, like even for that vehicle, or they have classes for specific engines even. And once you go through that, you understand how it works, and so you're one step ahead of the other guy who just is pulling fault codes and checking wires here and there.
And
So,
time's money. I mean, when you're out there, that's the bottom line. Time's money. So, it's all about making that money. But, there's different avenues. We'll start wrapping it up. But, service dispatcher, service writer, or service manager. I mean, you can work your way up. I mean, I know they're the scapegoats. I mean, they're the one they're going to come to in the shop. That's a big job. I mean, and then there's the whole parts side of it, the parts specialist, salesperson, auto designer, instructor. I mean, who would want to be an auto instructor? I have no idea, but it's fun. There's good hours. But listen, wow, there's a lot out there. I mean, you see a lot in your dealership. Just talk real quickly about some facets, some different things. I mean, you got insurance adjusters coming in there. You got a brother that's out there doing service writing, and that's also a tech. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's I mean, really there's a lot of different job avenues you can follow. If you decide you don't enjoy turning wrenches, you can go and do something else. And like for instance, my brother, he just moved into he's doing the service. He's a service writer advisor, and he's been doing that now, and he likes it. But he has the knowledge to work on cars. He was an apprentice beforehand, and it's one of those. If you follow, if you go up the ladder, a lot of times, like even at my old dealership, the service managers usually have a very big history of, working on cars previously, time in the shop. They understand how things work, and how it really helps prepare them for, how to make decisions that they need to make in the shop as well.
And that's neat. Yeah, it's a fine-tuned machine. It's a big industry, automotive industry. Check it out. Go check out one of your local tech schools. Go to the shops, talk to them. It's a high-wage, high-demand career. Everybody is in need of techs. It's just getting worse. Old cats like me are retiring and getting out. There's going to be a huge shortage in our country and all over the world. So, you like the career? You recommend it?
I definitely recommend it if you like working on cars.
Awesome, awesome. Well, our executive producer E-Dub's giving us the sign, man. We're about 20 minutes in, so I'll tell you what, you guys, thank you so much for watching the podcast. Thank you to E-Dub and his crew for letting us get it out there. Download it, listen to it, share it, and we'll catch you next time for more Automotive Tech Talk.